Hi, this is Ken Okel. Welcome to this presentation, which is all about communicating through a camera. A lot of us now are having to do all of our work virtually. And for you, you may be having to communicate with employees through a camera. It may feel a little unnatural, especially if you're not able to see your audience. So how are you able to make effective presentations, sales calls, or just interact with your colleagues in a good, productive way when you can't see them? I understand this challenge because for a lot of years, I worked in TV news where I was communicating to an audience that I could not see through a camera lens. It is a skill that you can learn and you can develop and maybe over time even get good at. What's the challenge that we often have when we're just talking into that camera lens? We're not able to see the audience. We may start to ramble a little bit. We may become a little dull. You start to become long-winded. You're not really sure where you're going. You might actually say something you shouldn't say just because you're trying to fill up some dead air. So if you can really get a good feel for communicating through a camera with your audience, I think you're going to become a more effective communicator, and you're going to help your audience as well because they're going to be engaged. They're going to know what you want from them, and probably you're going to be able to do it in less time. First tip that I want to give you. When you're looking into that camera lens, I want you to think that you are talking to one person. This can be a family member, a friend, a good colleague. Have it be someone who you like, they like you have an emotional connection with them. So I want you to imagine that you are talking to that person directly. You're not talking to 10 people, you're not talking to 100 people. They may be in the audience, but in this case, I really want you to think about I am just talking to one person. It changes the dynamics if you go from a one-on-one conversation to a one-on, I don't know who's out there conversation. So pick your person that you're going to communicate to. Sometimes it just feels weird to be looking up at that camera and having a relationship with it. So what I suggest is that by the camera, like right next to it, put up a picture. I suggest a picture of a family member, some friends, maybe even a favorite vacation destination. So it gives you a spot to look at, but also it's kind of like you're talking to that person and not just an inanimate object like a camera lens. Camera lens doesn't do much in terms of giving you any reactions back, but if you're talking to a picture of someone you know, that can help a little bit. When you're talking to an audience that you can't see, you really have to commit to your presentation, to whatever you're sharing with them. If you're saying something that you think is kind of funny or good news, then you have to believe in your mind that they are reacting to it, maybe with a smile, maybe it's not maybe outrageous laughter, or that they're kind of nodding like, oh, okay, I got that. Thank you for telling me that. You have to imagine their responses. You can't see them, but you have to imagine that they're there. Keep them realistic, as I said before. Don't think that your little joke is going to get huge, uproarious laughter, but just think that they're nodding and going, okay, yeah. Along those lines, let's break out a picture of some kittens. These kittens look very interested in what I'm saying. Now, this is just in my mind. But if we're talking about something that's happening in my mind, imagine that as you're talking, people are giving you some verbal feedback. This is only something that you're hearing in your mind. But imagine if I was explaining a new cleaning policy to some employees. So I might be listing off some things. So on Thursday nights, we're going to be cleaning the entire office. We ask that you put any belongings into a plastic bag and put them in your desk. And the cleaning should be done by the time you come in the next day. You won't even notice anything. Just take the things out of your bag. So I basically said 3 points there. Imagine that after each point, the audience, being very interested in what you're saying, would say something like, oh, tell me more. That's interesting. Why are we doing that? Very good point, Ken. Thank you. Imagine that there's two sides to the conversation. you're inserting some of those little feedback elements into the talk as you're giving your information. It just gives you, again, another opportunity to form that connection with the audience that you can't see. Let's talk about notes. Because I think a lot of people get nervous when they're having to talk into a camera to an audience that they can't see. They want to get some points across. So should they have just all these notes? It's very tricky. You want to make sure that you're giving out good information. However, if you're just reading from a page, you may lose some of your connection with your audience, and you may start to bore them a little bit. If I ever use notes, I just put up a few keywords on a Post-it note and put that note up close to the webcam. That way, they're there if I need them. But really, for the most part, I want to think about what I'm going to say, think about what are the key points that I need, and just cover those. And I may, break grammar rules once or twice, but I think that's okay because I'm having a conversation with someone. And in a conversation, we're not perfect, but we get the point across. Some people may be very interested in getting some sort of teleprompter software for their computer. This can be very useful because the words that you want to say will be up on the screen. This is how we did it when we'd be in studio on the news. You had a teleprompter. All the stories, all the information was up there. If you're going to go that route, and there are some wonderful programs out there that can help you, make sure you have set aside time to practice with it. Because news anchors have to really practice to get good at reading the words and looking at the camera and relating to the audience. It can look unnatural if someone is just focused on reading the words and they are not paying attention to the audience. It's an extra step that you're putting into the communication process that may make it less effective. I'm more of a fan of knowing your topic, knowing your information, have a few keywords up there to help you, but don't try to read something verbatim unless you're going to invest the time to practice. And practice a few times. Practice doesn't mean once. Along those lines, it is good to do an overall practice session before you address your group. With most meeting platforms, webinar platforms, you can do a meeting just with yourself and record it. Then I want you to go through, look at it, and evaluate your performance. How well are you doing? Are you connecting well? Does it seem like you're unnatural? Sometimes you may have to learn how to modulate your performance, and it is a performance. You may be like, hey, everybody, I want to tell you about this new HR policy. Okay, pull it down, dude. A little less energy. Hey, I want to tell you about a new policy that could be very useful. Okay, that's kind of right there in that middle part. On the other side of it might be like, okay, everyone, let's talk about our new HR policy. There, the energy is too low. So you got to find that sweet spot for you where it feels authentic, but maybe it has just a little bit more enthusiasm, a little bit more engagement, but it always is grounded in reality, and it is grounded as who you are as a person. It's a balance. It's going to take some time to find it, but play around with it. Record. It's free when you have the software to do a test recording, so why not do a few? Make sure that you're hitting your marks. I've talked about a lot of points in this session. What I want to do is give you an opportunity to have a free download of this guide I put together. It's like a little cheat sheet that you can have, a reminder of some of the best practices that we've talked about. I am putting that information into the chat box right now. So if you go in there, you can find the link, copy it, download it. Also, if you're watching this session later on either, let's say, YouTube or through my website, I will put the link in there too. It's been great spending some time with you. You may be like, who is this guy? My name is Ken Okel. I'm a professional speaker. I talk to audiences about performance and productivity. I pull from the world of television news, professional ballet, and hurricane relief. It's an interesting combination. You can learn more about it at my website, which is kenokel.com, just like my name. You want to shoot me an email, tvguy@kenokel.com. And also, I encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn. maybe in the connection request, mention how you first became aware of me so I'll know where you're coming from and that you're not some sneaky person trying to sell me something I may not need. Communicating through a webcam is not easy. It is a skill, but it's a skill that you can get better at. I encourage you to work on improvement. Thank you so much for giving me this time. I'm Ken Okel. Take care.